you have to pitch differently because you're uninvited. It's not that at all, it's kind of you can still hold the frame. What do you say, Justin?
Yeah, I've been doing like cold calling, cold outbound, cold DM, just hunting things for 25 years, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's really interesting. I think people really like to signal that they are. So there's a lot of the pleasantries up front, which has a reverse effect of kind of lowering status. There's getting street irrelevance. There's the idea that if you're talking up front, you're kind of out of control. So the best thing you can do is just put your curiosity on the other person, ask an open question, make a statement, and get them talking. One of the most interesting things is that human beings are self-interested and they really want to talk about themselves. So like when I'm consulting companies and people, and Johnny and I go back and forth on this, it's like, what's the framework? What's the research? I just show up and I'm like, let them talk. And it's tough though, because you get in front of a client or prospect and like, okay, Justin, what do you do? Why are we here? And they hot potato you back. They throw you, right? And that's actually a lower frame. They want you to pitch. They want you to start selling right away in the DM, identify yourself right away on the cold call, right away on the thing. And then I'll just flip it back again. I'll go, oh, I got a piece of tech, but really want to understand your situation. What are you using now? Or, what's Q4 been like for you? Or I just do some kind of curious question. It's more of the state of being curious. And if I'm curious, I kind of then get them to be interested. It's interesting. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we can go in the philosophy of the frame. The cold approach, it's pretty nerve-wracking for people. It's it's like you kind of get nervous and you wonder what should I do, but the other person is thinking that too. So just get them talking is my first recommendation and advice. Be really curious in them, and there's no need to be like overly polite or to apologize or to, be that you're barging in. I mean, if you really, the thing is like I interrupt people for a living and I've done that forever. But if you have true conviction and belief that the thing that you're selling or promoting is really good for that person, then there's no shame in the interrupt. So all the approaches like sorry to bother you, like hey, I'm soliciting you, or all the apologetic stuff, it's less like humility and more it comes off as weaker and makes them see you as an inferior subconsciously. So it's better to just level up and get to the point and get them talking. We got a
Yeah.
great crew of people here, though, on this subject. If we can stay focused on just this subject for the next 20 minutes and, Johnny and I can field questions or comments, who wants to share? Moritz, auf Wiedersehen.
Hey guys, sorry.
Hey.
Why is it? Okay, wrong mic. Never mind. So the one thing that I think that those kind of people that come with the lower frame have is they don't believe in their own solution. If you believe in your own solution, or if you believe that you can help the other person solve a problem for them, why have a lower frame? So again, what I like is the word Johnny, I'm calling you specifically because I work with other la 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 la, or because I deal with problem la la la. So like specifically. And then there's no need for, I'm so sorry, I'm calling you out of the blue. Do you want to throw the phone out of the window and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I might counter it though, and I might say it depends on what you're selling because sometimes all it does is then sets them up into a funnel. So if I were to do that, if I were to kick off a call and say, look, I'll be straight, I help founders build a, £5 million company or whatever, use what you want to do, I would usually get no. I would get the clam up body language because they're expecting me then to enter them into a funnel. So I might cause thrashing. So it depends. I think you're right. If you're volume banging out, cold calls, then it's like, look, we haven't got a lot of time here. We need to get to the point. But if I'm doing discoveries, I just did a discovery before this, right before this, and I kicked off. I just said, look, I know you get tons of outbound. Why do you take mine? So he was just straight into that question, and he's like, well, I want to learn more about you. Okay, there's a lot to learn. What do you want to know specifically? What makes that relevant? So I just ask a question for a question. And ultimately, in the same way Justin says, it gets them sharing. But yeah, I mean, great perspective. But I just think it depends what you're selling.
100% agreed.
What else have we got?
There's a tendency to flatter, like if any of you have gone test drive a car or something, you go to BMW dealership and they're just like, they compliment a piece of your clothing or something. And then the other funny thing is you go over to like the red car, like, oh, great color. You go to the other one, oh, everything is great, right? So the trusted advisor is more like, okay, that might not be a fit, or that might be a fit. So part of how you get fame or fame, you can use my playbook for that, is just telling them honest feedback. Sometimes it's not positive. Like I do see Johnny do this all the time. It's like, hey, I'm not the specialist in that. I'm a specialist at this. But like, I don't code software. I'll just be straight up with that, right? Or I'm not like the RevOps guru that's going to come in and build all the dashboards. I could, but like if you have that person, I'll advise them. So expectation setting, being blunt, saying what you do and don't do, setting expectations, that shows courage. It's courageous to not tell people what they want to hear all the time, right? So that's a really important
Yeah.
distinction.
Yeah. The guy, just incidentally, it's just got me thinking 'cause it's fresh, but the guy on the call just before, the first thing he did was explain to me all the reasons why he couldn't do. He didn't have the credibility to do the thing that he was speaking to me about wanting to do. So he's listing all these reasons out. And I said to him, look, I've only known you 7 minutes, but the reason you're not doing this is because you don't believe in yourself. You're setting up all the reasons why you can't do it. And I'm looking at your profile. Man, you've got more credibility than 9 out of 10 of the people I deal with. So the first thing we need to address is why do you feel like you can't do what they can do? And it's disarming because who calls people out and stuff like that? They're too busy saying, yeah, maybe you're right. Who knows that. So yeah, I agree, and it's just fresh.
Charles,
Charles.
what's on your mind?
A great strategy that I found that ties all of this together is leading with problem statements. And when I mean a problem statement, I mean, to use Johnny's example of somebody, if you get people to $5 million, the problem statement variation of that may be, hey, Johnny, when I talk to founders who are looking to get to 5 million in revenue, oftentimes they tell me that they've largely sold to their network and now are struggling to identify good sales leaderships. If it's not that, they have operations that were built from 0 to 1, but aren't necessarily scaling from 1 to 10. And they spend a lot of their time in hiring conversations with no confidence as to the quality of the candidates. Does any of that resonate for you? And I like that for a couple reasons. One, it establishes credibility because if you know the problems and can describe them in a way that's relatable, you probably have the solution. And then two, it also is a way to gather market intel because there may be a gap between who you think you serve and who you actually serve. AKA, if a lot of people of a specific title say, nope, I don't really deal with that, then your targeting is probably off. And if you're running into a lot of people who aren't open to that, it's an easy DQ to the extent that those people probably aren't open to coaching anyway. So I think using problem statements is a good way to tie in all of the different factors that we've talked about here, for what that's worth.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
To double down on that, people move away from pain faster than moving toward pleasure. And so a lot of the very salesy, people-pleasing behavior is just going toward pleasure. Like, we're going to make you all this money. It's going to be so great. You're going to get all these results, right? But it's much more powerful to push them away from fear, like the cost of inaction, be the cost of it not working out, the cost of do nothing. Like, okay, it's like I always say to potential clients, okay, Groundhog Day is 2026, 2027, 2028, or we work together and then it starts to go like this, right? And it's like that simple of just, uh-oh, plateau.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
drive angry.
Yeah.
Edie, welcome.
Hey,
Oh, nice to see you.
hey, how are you doing?
Wow, thanks.
Yeah, so I just had a quick follow-up question on what Charles said. I think it's a great intro, but my question here is, doesn't
Oh,
doesn't that
Dragon.
automatically put you in a yes or no where it's like, okay, no, I'm not interested, click, right? In terms of, don't you want to be more open-ended as opposed to just yes or no? I mean, yes or no could be good in terms of if you're doing really high volume. But it could be, okay, I'm not interested. Click.
Yeah, so one variation you could do on the back end is how are you dealing with that today? Which I think comes from Josh Braun, because rather than, to your point, having a yes or no close question, you're also assuming competency on their part, right? Because to your point, a lot of times people, when they feel patronized or condescended, will shut down. Whereas if you approach them, and that's actually, it's good from a frame perspective, you approach them almost as a peer in the sense of these are problems that people, normal, typical people deal with. How are you, special person, dealing with that? And that makes them potentially more comfortable to open up. But I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that there are some people who are simply not open regardless, in which case they probably wouldn't be a very good client. So c'est la vie, in other words.
Yeah, so I'm testing this thing where one of the biggest response patterns I get is on the opinion. People love giving their opinion, right? They love talking about themselves. So one outreach thing I do is, hey, can I get your opinion on something? Can I get your opinion? Which is, to EB's point, a wide open question with an infinite variety. But then something Johnny talks about is niching, because then if you point them at like a really wide open stance, what do you really want to change? And they're like, well, I want to build a deck in my backyard, right? Like you could get a goal that has nothing to do with your ability to consult your software, the problem. I'd be curious, Johnny, on that one, how you see it.
In terms of so how I see it in terms of
Keeping them focused and a cold approach, right? Rather than using an open question, you get interactions, but
oh
then
yeah, yeah.
you're way out into Arcturus as far as the relevancy.
Yeah, I call it calibration, and I think it's important that you do one of two things. If you know, it's hard to calibrate somebody immediately because then it's direct and it just feels like a pitch. So how do you do it? So I've found that if you ask a question about, linked to the macro, kind of a macro condition that's affecting them in this place. So let's say it's a founder who we feel might be looking to raise. I've used this example before. Then we might spark something like you seeing VCs pumping money into startups next year, or the economy's blown it, and you're going to get tons of interactivity because it presses on a macro, and it's calibrated. Because if I help them with that thing, if I help them solve it, and they tell me yes or no, whichever way they go, I can quickly gear shift. All right, okay, so are you mid raise or you're looking to do it? If you go really high, you're going to get tons of interactivity, but you've got to be prepared to then spend the time. So if I get a client who says, just can't get responses to anything, I'll say, let's go really, really high, like blue sky, and then let's calibrate after. So, oh, got it, nice, sounds good. So, you raising right now? So then I'll gear shift on the second tier. So, it can be done, but personally, I'd need all the hours that God sends to fend that stuff off. So I like to calibrate.
Interesting. Who has a question, share feedback on cold opening, cold approaches, cold situations? I mean, you're
I
suddenly in
got
front of a human and it's feeling cold. Perfect for this time of year.
Mm.
I've got something for you, JM. So I've got I'm getting more what's the word? I'm qualifying more of these opportunities in the DMs versus just blindly accepting meeting requests or blindly allowing meetings to come into the diary. So I'm being really protective of my time. Um, is there I'm really pushing the boundaries on some of this qualification stuff. I'm just curious to see whether any of you have been there where you've overqualified and potentially put someone off. So I'm really this is what I'm testing at the moment is really pushing the boundaries of like, is this person genuinely going to be spending money with me or not? And I think I might have just overstepped the mark with two people, which means I probably put them off, and now I'm kind of like having to backtrack a little bit. But I wonder if either of you have got sort of a point of view on qualification in the DMs and when to draw the line, when to go, you know what, I'm going to invest 30 minutes in this discovery call versus kind of just pressing them a bit more in the DMs.
Do you want me to take it? What did you do? What did you do? Like as briefly as you can, what did you do that where you felt you'd pushed it too far?
Well, like one of them is one of them asked me, what did they ask me? He's asking me for like, what was it? Yeah, give me a list of your services or, and I'm like, well, before we get into that, like just tell me, I'm basically running the 7 steps essentially. Like I'm getting him to open up about the goals and, the goals behind the goals, but I'm doing that in the DMs essentially. Um, and then I kind of closed a couple of these. I've closed off with, look, if you're serious about improving yourself and you're willing to invest in it, like let's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Pretty blunt. Um, and yeah, a couple of them have just that we're now they're now ghosting me a little bit. They haven't responded in like a good week.
Yeah. There's a reason for it. There's a reason they've ghosted you. I've seen JM's responses to these, and I know they're similar to mine. I think that when people ask for a menu of services and they really push on prices and services before they've met you, it's an indication that they really can't afford coaching and consulting. If the focus is on, what's your menu versus let me talk to you about what I need, I would say 9.9 out of 10 they're going to show up and 30 minutes in they're going to say, oh, I don't really have a budget for it. So they're looking for free consulting. So I would see that as a red flag, and personally I would push that hard too because I wouldn't, I'd want to flush that out. And I've seen Justin do it. Am I right?
Well, yeah, I just had a situation. Founder adds me. It's like, oh, really like your writing, your book. Um, we should talk. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I didn't think to vet it. And she's like, oh, I can't wait to show the tech. I've got this AI thing that does X and Y. Like, I'm really not, I'm not looking for tech stacks right now. Like, if you're serious about, me helping coach and help you grow your startup, let's talk. And then I kind of felt,
Yeah.
I still feel remorse in those moments, right? Because when you're an author, you like all the people that read your stuff, it's like, it's an art and a science, but you got to protect your calendar. Pipeline cures all ills. Soon you have way too many meetings, and then it's really exhausting when you're doing free consulting. You have like 3 meetings, and they were all like, and you get to the call, and they're like, "Well, hey, okay, why are you here? You're interested in coaching?" Like, "Well, you invited me here, Justin. Like, I want to hang," and it's kind of brutal. And then you're like, you have to be loving and kind, but you're there like gritting your teeth and biting your lip as they blow through 30 minutes. Lisa,
Yeah.
you're laughing, Lisa. I want to go to you and get your feedback.
Yeah, no, I just think about protecting the calendar because I've had a lot of people, because I put my link on my website and I've had a lot of conversations like that where I just get on calls and I'm like, oh, this is brutal and not going to go anywhere. As I think back to the conversation when someone says, oh, send me info, I feel like a lot of times they're just trying to be polite to get you off the call and they don't necessarily have any interest in really doing business with you. So one of the things I will say is before I overwhelm you, because there's quite a few different ways that, I support clients, and then I'll just redirect it and ask them if it's okay if I ask them a few questions. And I don't say I'm not going to send you info, but I just want to make sure that it's info that's going to be relevant to them and, keep the conversation going. So that seems to work. And a lot of times, because then you can really hit on what they're interested in.
Yeah. It's frame personified.
Yeah. So I think another thing is cold approaching. You're mainly going to get a no because buyers are liars. We all lie first. Like we go into a retail store and can I help you? And we tend to, say no. And then right, they come back and ask us again. So no matter the medium, let me just catch. Cool. No matter the medium, persistence is powerful. So how am I able to hold a high frame but be the honey badger? How am I able to be so damn persistent? There's people who are like, oh my gosh, like he sent me 3 links to his book. What a spammer, like, there's Alex Hermosi, in the muscle shirt, going all day on his book. So, I have a patient, persistent sort of professionalism and finesse. Every single touch, I want to add value, tell a story, entertain, edutain, bring a new dimension, and I just keep showing up. And I think the personality I take is like Dory the fish, because the highest frame thing I can do is like the movie Memento, is just have pure amnesia. I just forgot. Like it's the 11th touch. Cool. Clear the messaging and go again. If you actually delete your messaging on LinkedIn, it'll clear it and you can start again. So yeah, Johnny, what's the fine line when you're chasing after things and people and situations? Where do you become, where is it low status? And you can say, well, just, yeah, Justin, what you're doing is low status. Just stop.
Well, it's hard to say that because it works for you, doesn't it? So it's like if it works, then it works. And I think it's hard to criticize what others are doing. I mean, personally, just my personality is I don't do it. I don't do endless follow-ups and chases. You know, I look at it as typically in my mind, anything past, an initial opener, um, a bump, one value prop, I start to look desperate and I don't like that. And I think even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. So if you keep going and you hit 60 and you get a win, does it mean it works? Or like I'm just of this opinion. I think you and I have debated this endlessly, and neither of us maybe are wrong, but I've always said I'd rather hit 10 people 5 times than, you know, um, one person 50 times. I just think there's more status in it because there's endless prospects. So, but you do it different to me. Mine works, yours works. You find your slot, right?
Yeah, and you gotta show up. I mean, you can sit in a room waiting for things to come in. I mean, inbound is powerful, and I don't need to get into the inbound outbound argument because that'll really set the room on fire. That'd be worth the whole the whole one of these. But even mining the inbound, like you have to show up, and every sale happens in a conversation. So you have to be constantly having conversation with good people. The list is the strategy. People get burned out all the time on this cold stuff. They're like, oh, I hate cold calling, I hate cold prospecting, I hate cold DMs. Like they really actually hate it. It's brutal for them. You're just not talking to the right people. Pick people that scare you. Be nervous, feel butterflies. Like, are you afraid when you open your LinkedIn? Are you afraid when you pick up the phone? That's different reasons. But you should be contacting people that you don't know exactly how you can serve them. And the paradox is the higher up you go, the higher frame that you approach, the more elegant and gracious and classy and actually easier it is, right? And often you get more rejection, but it's easier to do. So, I was sitting in the Empire State Building at LinkedIn and I called, or actually I DM'd, I think I sent um, an in-mail to this board member for Sharp Corporation, this Fortune 1000. And he was on the board and he immediately pinged back with his cell phone. I called him and they set up a board meeting. And within a week, I was like at a giant boardroom, like you see in the movies with all these, muckety mucks from Sharp. But normally I didn't ever go after board members. I thought, well, that's the board. I don't want to, I don't want to go there. So I guess the homework, because I always give homework, is cold approach someone that scares you this week over Thanksgiving. Could be an aunt or uncle or cousin. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about it. I think most clients say the first thing is like, I need to punch down. And I need to find people who are beneath me or behind me in the textbook. But it's actually the opposite. Like, go right to the top. What gap do you fill? We're not teaching. I've got a client right now who's CEO of Accenture, believe it or not. Like, what the hell am I doing coaching this guy? I'm not coaching him on how to be the CEO of Accenture. I'm coaching him on some blind spots that he has that I do better than he does. And that's the secret. So it's like, how do you go and fill that gap? Don't punch down on the little guys. My view.
Love it. Well, eat some tryptophan, have some turkey for those in the States. Everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your week. Please read the frame. We're going to release the damn thing in a couple weeks. It'll just suddenly appear on Amazon. So, yeah, I'm very excited to have it there. I'm going to rack up reviews, make a joyful noise, and we'll see you soon.
Good to see you all. Happy
Thanks, everyone.
Thanksgiving.
See you soon.
Bye.